Gordon Parks never before seen photos of 1950s segregation. Gordon Parks was only a teenager when he left his hometown for Fort Scott, Kansas. The youngest of 15, Parks chose to make a living for himself after his mother passed away, and wound up becoming the first African-American photographer for Life magazine. Only 2 years after his first Life assignment, Parks returned home for a photo essay on segregated education. Journeying to Fort Scott and other Midwest cities nearby, Parks photographed his childhood classmates, capturing their faces, families, and homes while recording details about their occupations and incomes. The photo essay, for reasons that remain unknown, was never published, and most of the images went unseen. And then Karen Hess, creator of MFA Boston, stumbled upon images of Parks that changed everything. The museum decided to do a rather major publication on our African Americans collection across all our departments. Hess explained in a phone conversation with the Huffington Post, "I was asked to write the entries on the African American photographers because it was a particular interest of mine. One of the photographs by Gordon Parks was sort of a mystery. It's simply titled 'Outside the Liberty Theatre,' and depicts a young couple outside a segregated movie theater. I contacted the Gordon Parks Foundation, and together we sorted out the fact that this was a photograph taken in Fort Scott, Kansas, and related to a larger story that's widely unknown because it was never published in Life magazine. That's really where it all began. They've never been exhibited together before. Many of them have never been shown at all. They're completely unknown. The foundation didn't know the picture. No one knew what it really was. It's not that surprising that for a magazine photographer, without that anchor to a story, there's no reason for them to see the light of day again. There was this trail, this little thread I was following to figure out the story from this picture." From this original image, an exhibition was born. Hess mimicked Parks' journey to revisit his old classmates from an all-black elementary school, visiting Kansas City, St. Louis, Detroit, and Chicago, everywhere except Columbus, Ohio, to see what remained of the space Parks immortalized. For Parks it became this trip back into his past to present his national issue to the mostly white readership of Life magazine through the lens of his own life. The poignant image depicts everyday life for American in 1950, playing pool, reading book, watching a baseball game, all under the regulations of segregation. Along with the image, Parks recorded detail about his former classmates' current lives. For example, that Normal Earl Collins was doing quite well, making $122 an hour on Union Electric for Missouri. What I love about the picture is that way I feel as through when I look at the expressions in their faces, I can see the pride each of these families felt standing in front of their houses, explained Hess. Parks made an effort to pose his subjects in front of their houses with these strong nuclear families, the way so many families in Life magazine are posed to begin with. That white middle-class family pose, to pose African American families in front of their homes, I think I would have been quite startling to the readership. I'm fascinated by the gaze, each of them trusting their friends, not only this fellow African American, but someone who'd grown up in Kansas with them. What they'd experienced together, the poverty, the childhood struggles. And now he's the famous New York photojournalist, his success story. And each of them is trusting him, telling him their stories. Not surprisingly, from the moment the 42 photographs were installed on gallery walls, the reaction from museum employees and visitors was overwhelming. It's been really wonderful talking to people around the galleries and hearing their reactions. We've been struck by how contemporary it feels, how timely these issues are, obviously, even today. Here was a photographer. He'd only just begun at Life magazine less than 2 years earlier. They assigned him the story on segregation, and he'd already given the relative free rein to focus the story around his own childhood. It doesn't look dated to me. It feels like there's a lot we can talk about. This isn't the first time of Gordon Parks exhibiting has hit close to home. His segregation story on Vive at the High Museum in Atlanta depicts an Alabama family living under Jim Crow segregation in the same decade. Parks' images, despite capturing altogether different time, still speak to a nation where issues of racism are pronounced, whether looking at police killings or the Oscar race. One of Haas's main hopes for the exhibition was connecting to the children of Parks' subject. The subject, as well as Parks, are all deceased. The children were my hope, she said. I spent a lot of time doing genealogy research. I tried to find the number of the children and had no luck, until other day the phone rang. It was this little girl from one of the pictures who is now in her late 60s. She retired and lives in Arizona, and we just had the most amazing conversation about her mother and her mother's friendship with Gordon Parks, and how she was able to do many of things her mother wasn't able to do in life. Her daughter has gone to get a teaching degree, a doctorate. She traveled the world. It was incredibly emotional.